it's Ian from Ranking the Obscure here. Hope you're all well. Just like to thank you, those that are continuing to watch, and I know one person has subscribed, so someone started the ball rolling. So guys, click that red button. So what we're going to look at today, we're actually looking at I'd say he's one of my favourite artists of all time, Mike Oldfield, the multi-talented Mike Oldfield. I've been into Mike Oldfield from day one. I remember my dad buying this Tubular Bells thing in 1973, and I remember him playing it, and I got to like it. And when I got to an age where I could actually go and buy records, one of the first ones I brought, and I looked into it and found other albums, and I just gradually brought all the albums. I've got them all now, all 26 studio albums, compilations and little ditties, which could all make up another show. So you never know, you might get another Mike Oldfield. Excuse me, this is going to be a long day. It's bedtime. I'm not including the boxed set in the ranking, but it will get a mention at the end. So we've got 26 albums to go through. So let's get started. Coming in at number 26 is 1989's Earth Moving, his 12th album. He's got some interesting people playing on here. Max Bacon, Maggie Riley's on here, Chris Thompson, Thunderchild from War of the Worlds fame. It's got some good tracks on this one, and it's hard to rank these because I do like them all. So let's have a look at the tracks. First track on the album's called Holy. It's a nice vocal from a guy called Adrian Bello. Great guitar solo from Mike. As soon as you hear it, you know it's Mike Oldfield. Next track called Hostage. It's very 80s pop, and came out in 1989. It's got a nice vocal from Max Bacon, and what makes this track is actually Max Bacon and Mike Oldfield's guitar work. Apart from that, it's just an ordinary. Next track, Far Country, and mediocre, sort of not very memorable. Innocent, too poppy for me, but it has got a great vocal from Anita Hergest, Mike Oldfield's partner at the time. Really, really good. Runaway Sun, sorry. It's an okay tune, not my favourite on it. See the Light, good rocker. Chris Thompson vocals on this, it's terrific. Just what, you know, it's a proper rocky song. Earth Moving, 80s sounding again, not my favourite. Next track, Blue Night, I call it Moonlight Shadow Part 2 because it sounds exactly like it, and it's Maggie Riley singing on it. And the last track on the album is Nothing But Bridge to Paradise. It's a mini epic from Mike Oldfield. Everything sort of works well. Nice vocal on here. Who sings on this? A guy called Phil Spalding. Really good. Good way to end the album. Really good song. So coming in next at number 25 is their 14th album, 1991's Heaven's Open. These last out albums, it's all mostly single, you know, short songs. I'm not particularly a fan of them, but there are some good moments. Heaven's Open is one of them. First track, Mate. Worst track on the album, Nothing Good About It. And what makes it worse, Mike Oldfield sings all the vocals on this album, and he's not particularly the best singer in the world, bless him. But that track is awful. Second track, No Dream, it's got some eerie guitar work on this one, and it actually hasn't got a bad vocal from Mike Oldfield on this one, so it's an okay track. Next track, Mr. Shame. Musically it's very good, but the vocal for Mike is not very good. Max Bacon suits his voice a treat, this would. Shame that he didn't sing on it. Next track, Gimme Back. It's got a bit of a reggae beat to it and works well. Even the vocal works well on that one. Okay, next track is the title track, A Heaven's Open. It's okay, but nothing special, but good guitar work, which makes it listenable. And then side 2, because I've got this on album and CD. Is a bit of an epic from Mike. Music from the Balcony. This is a typical Mike Oldfield long track. It's got sounds interwoven. It's got a lovely piano bit at the beginning, and then it goes into this jazz fusion prog rock thing. It's the best track on the album. It's beautifully into different sections that flow nicely, which is a Mike Oldfield technique, and it goes through his career. He's very good at putting things together that flow. Really good track. Play that one quite a lot actually. Okay, coming in at number 24 is his 25th album from 2014, Man on the Rocks. Now, out of these lower albums with just more singing short tracks, this is the best one. All the singing is done by a guy called Luke Spiller. Really good. It's got who else is playing on this one? No one of great, but a lot of good, probably session musicians. I forgot to mention that on Heaven's Open, Mickey Simmons, who keyboarded with Fish, plays on it, and Simon Phillips, who we've talked about before, who seems to drum with everybody, but he doesn't drum on Man on the Rocks. So let's have a look at the tracks. First track is Sailing. Very catchy tune. It's a nice song. Gets your feet tapping. Moonshine, next song. Similar sort of feel to it as Sailing. Very nice song. Man on the Rocks. Great vocal from Luke Spiller. Really, really good. And then we get a thing called Castaway. Basically, it's 6.5 minutes of boredom. Keys in a one dreadful note. No, doesn't do anything for me. Next song, Minutes. It's okay, but it's got no guts to it. It needs a little bit more to it, which is a shame because it is a good song, but it just needs a little bit more oomph. Same with the next one, Dreaming in the Wind. It's okay, but very ordinary. It just needs. He needed to put something more nuclear, more of the same. It's just it just lacks something. Then he comes in with a Stormer, Chariots. Great rocker. It's got some balls. This has. It really does lift the album after 3 dreary tracks. Next track, Following the Angels. It's a 7-minute filler. Less we say about that. We don't want to. I'm not going to say too much. It's not very good. Then we come to the best track on the album, Irene. Proper rock track. This is one of the heaviest tracks of Mike Oldfield has done. And then it ends up with a thing called I Give It Myself Away. It's the worst track on the album. It's awful. I don't have nothing good to say about it. Let's move on. Next album is from 1984. It's 10th, and it's the soundtrack to The Killing Fields. Now, I'm not a very great lover of soundtrack albums because it's just very short little ditties on it. But this has got some really nice pieces. If you've seen the film, I mean, I've got the film. I like it because I've got the film and I can picture what's going on. But there are 2 outstanding tracks on this album. First one is Evacuation, which is, if you've seen the film, it's where they're evacuating the embassy. But this song would stand out on its own. It's moving, it's daunting, it's dramatic. Great track. You can listen to that without even thinking about a film or not seeing it. The other track on here is The Last Etude. It's a beautiful piece of music. When it's in the film, it's quite moving. But again, it's one of them that you can listen to without knowing nothing about the film. On the whole, he's wrote a very good score for a great movie. You can't say more about that. It is really good album. I enjoy it. I actually can listen to this one. Okay then, coming in at number 22, another album that he made in 1984, his ninth, Discovery. On here we've got Maggie Riley, Barry Palmer, and Simon Phillips drums on this one, and all the other instruments are played by Mr. Oldfield. Got some good tracks on this. I know it's at 22. I do enjoy this album, but he's made so many good albums, it's just hard to rank them at times. Right, first track is To France, which was a single. Nice track, vocal from Maggie Riley, and a great guitar solo, one of Mike's bests. Then we have a thing called Poison Arrows, sung by Barry Palmer. This is a really daunting sort of track. Starts off nice and slow, and then it builds up, and the guitar solo on this is probably the best thing that Mike Oldfield's done on a track as a guitar solo. It's heavy, it's just great. Next track, Crystal Gazing. That's a nice quirky little track. Got some nice guitar work on it. Then we get Tricks of the Light, another upbeat song. We've got Barry Palmer and Maggie Riley singing on this, and another strong guitar solo for Mike Oldfield makes it a really good track. The title track's the next one, Discovery, strong song, and Barry Palmer delivers a fine vocal performance. Next track, Talk About Your Life, good vocal from Maggie Riley. It's a typical Mike Oldfield song. A little bit like Too Much into France that he sort of intermixes. There's little bits from that song that he puts into this. It works very well. Next song, Saved by the Bell. It's not my favourite. Very weak lyrics, talking about would you like to look at my periscope. Not very my cup of tea. But the last track, one of these mini epics, The Lake. Best track on the album. It's got a lot of keyboard work in here. Flows well with a good tempo change. But the best thing about this is about a quarter of the way through, there's a guitar solo, and I call it the Mike Oldfield does Hank Marvin, because it just sounds, it's playing a Fender, it just sounds like Hank Marvin. Great, really good track. On the whole, a very good album. I listened to it quite a lot. Coming in at number 21 is his 11th album from 1987, Islands. Now there's some interesting people on here. Mickey Moody plays on here, Rick Fenn, Mickey Simmons again, Anita Hergeland, Max Bacon appears, Simon Phillips again, and Bonnie Tyler. We'll go into that in a minute. It's not a bad album. Opens up with basically one side of an album, The Wind Chimes Part 1 and 2. Part 1's a little intro, and then it goes into a proper song. It flows with some great guitar work, and there's some flute work in here that reminds me of Ian Anderson, the style that he played with Jethro Tull. The first part's very orchestral, and then goes into part 2, and then it builds up, That's what I like about Mike Oldfield. You start off with slow tracks and then he builds it up, and this ends it's very similar end to this as it is in Tubular Bells. You've got the bells, great track, great side of an album, and then we go on to side 2. First track is Islands. Don't like it because I don't like Bonnie Tyler. She sounds like that she's drank a bottle of meth before she sang. Don't like it, really don't. Next track, Flying Start. It's cheesy, but I like it. It's a good cheesy song. Next song is North Point. Great vocal from Anita Högland. Really, she's got one of these voices that, with the eerie music that Mike produced on this album, it flows lovely, nice. Then we get a track called Magic Touch, sung by a guy called Jim Price. It's got some nice guitar work. Next track, The Time Has Come. This is atmospheric, again with Anita's vocals on it. They complement each other very well. And the last track is a track called When the Night's on Fire. Nice guitar work and vocals. Good way to end the album. Coming in at number 20 is the 2008 album, 24th, Music of the Spheres. Now this is more or less an orchestral album. It is really good. It was something different. It's, I'd say, a modern day classical album. Really good. Opens up with a thing called Hardbinger, proper classical open, something that you listen to from Beethoven and that sort of thing. Really good opening piece of music. Then he goes into a thing called Animus. Again, it's got the classical backing, and you've got some nice Spanish guitar work from Mike Oldfield. Fits in beautifully. And then we get a thing called Silhouette. There's flute and piano in this, and then you got this soothing soft acoustic work from Mike Oldfield. Then you get a thing called Shabada. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's just a bit of orchestral brilliance. It just shows how talented Mike Oldfield is. It's just brilliant. And then you get a thing called The Tempest. It's sort of a mini epic within the epic. You can't say much more. Again, orchestrally brilliant. Then you get a reprise of Hardbinger. And then we get this thing called On My Heart, featuring Hayley Westerner. It's operatic. It's a stunning vocal. Most relaxing piece of music to listen to. Next track is called Aurora. It's nice. It's got that from an album called Incantation feel to this piece. Really like this. Next track, Prophecy. Starts off a very deserty, Egyptian. It's got that Arabic feel to it. Really, really good. And then they give us a little reprise on My Heart, which I can't get enough of. Then we have a thing called Harmonica Mundi. Very soothing orchestral horns and strings with classical guitar. Then it runs into a little piece, it's only about a minute and a half, called The Other Side. It sort of ends, it sort of complements Harmonica Mundi because it sort of ends it nicely. Then we have a thing called Empty Room. Again, it's orchestral, but it's got an all what I call an Ommadawn feel to it. Then the last track is called Musica Universals. Good ending with some tubular bells in it, from good measure. Can't go wrong. Can't go wrong. Next album, number 19, is his 21st from 2002, Tr3s Lunas. I can never know how you pronounce it. This is an idea here that he developed for music VR. There was a game as well, and it's a very chill out album. Features his sister on it, Sally Oldfield. and a woman called Jude Sim. This album is quite chilled out. First track on here is a track called Misty. It's got a real modern feel to it, atmospheric. It's got sax, but it's not sax, it's sax played on a keyboard. Really good track. Then you get No Man's Land. It's in the same style as Misty. I enjoy it. Then you get a thing called Return to the Orange. Start again, Ian. Return to Origin. It's got. It's very eerie. Sally Oldfield does some speaking in this. Nice percussion on this song. Really, really different. This whole album's different, but it's different in a good way. Then we get a thing called Landfall, very short interlude piece, always good little beast that is. Then we get a thing called Viper. It's very modern Jean-Michel Jarre, really good track. Then we get a thing called Turtle Island. It's got another great acoustic work, nice mellow keyboards, very relaxing. Then we get To Be Free. Jude Sim sings on this. Very catchy, sort of dance sort of record, but different, but good. Then we get Firefly. It's atmospheric with different sounds. As I said, Mike Oldfield's got this knack of making it these melodic, tuneful sounds, not just sounds. Then we get the title track, Tr3s Lunas. Love every element of this. It's Mike Oldfield wrapped up into 4.5 minutes. Everything that you expect from Mike Oldfield, it delivers in 4.5 minutes. Really good. Then Daydream, you just get piano and guitar for Mike Oldfield. Lovely little just over 2 minutes. Lovely. Then we get a thing called Thou Art in Heaven. It's very dance club. Not for me. No, then you get a No Man's Land reprise, and then you get a To Be Free edit for the radio. Sort of starts well and then just fizzles out again. Coming in at number 18 is Amarok, 13th album, 1990. This is a 60-minute track of continuous, uninterrupted music. That's what it says. This is a song of two halves, like in football, rugby. The first 45 minutes is great. It's a modern take on his first 3 albums. You know, Ommadawn, Hergest Ridge and Tubular Bells. It's got them guitar bits, the flowing. It's got a lovely piece of classical Spanish bit in it. But the last 10 minutes is utter dribble. He should have cut it off there, and then this would have been ranked higher with me. It's just got drums, and then you get Janet Brown doing a Margaret Thatcher impersonation. Why? Just totally ruins the song at the end. Hence why it's down at number 18. Cut that out and it would have probably got into my top 10, but because of Janet Brown, you're down at 18. Coming in at number 17 is 2003 22nd album, Tubular Bells 2003. This is basically Tubular Bells redone digitally. I've got no problem with this. It's not. I don't think it's as good, obviously, as Tubular Bells, the original cut. But it's been remixed a little bit, and some of it's great. The best bit is in the finale bit. It features John Cleese introducing the instruments. Can't go wrong. Mike Oldfield and John Cleese. Then you go on to the second part. It's very similar to Tubular Bells. The bagpipe guitar bit is really good. Little bit different from the original, and the bit with the talking caveman's really good. And Sailor's hornpipe, still a traditional version. On the whole, I put it on now and again just to have a bit different. But that's why it's down there. It's not, doesn't rank with the other Tubular Bells. Okay then, coming in number 16 is his 17th album from 1996, Voyager. This is a very Celtic album. It's got a lot of traditional songs that he's done his versions of. But a terrific album. Let's have a quick look. First song is called The Song of the Sun. I think this is a version of another song. I can't find it, but it's a gentle Celtic melody. Superb guitar work, pipes, everything you expect from a Celtic track. Second track, Celtic Rain. Now this is, I know this is a traditional, so it's a Scottish piece of music written in 19. I've got so much information for this one. No, that's another one. No, this is actually wrote by Mike Oldfield. I do apologise, folks. Oh, it's a great little track. The next one, The Hero, is definitely the one, a Scottish piece written in 1903. It just got that Celtic feel, and I love the Celtic sound. Number 3, Women of Ireland. This is based on the traditional Irish piece, but it actually incorporates Saraband from Handel. How he does it is amazing. Another good track. Then we get a Mike Oldfield original. The Voyager incorporates traditional bagpipes, Celtic drums with adorned guitar work. Really, really good. Then we have a thing called She Moves Through the Fair. Now the melody of this is actually also been, it's a traditional song, and it's actually been used by Simple Minds in Belfast Child. So if you know the song Belfast Child, you know the melody, and what Mike's done to it, he's took that melody but added Mike Oldfield's touch to the song. Really good version. And then we get a thing called Dark Island. Nice guitar work with just a simple keyboard loop. Just can't go wrong. Wild Goose Flaps Its Wings. It's another atmospheric track with good guitar work. Then we get a thing called The Flowers of the Forest. It's a very traditional song, written, oh, they say it dates back to 1513 after the Battle of Flodden. Very Scottish, really good. Then the last track on the album is a mini epic from Mike Oldfield. He's just got that feel, Celtic field, with Mike Oldfield's interpretation of the song. It's really good. It's called Mont St Michael. Really good, really good. I think it's sort of loosely round about the album. There's a island, France, I think. My geography's not brilliant, but on the whole, a really good album. It's a bit different from what he normally did, but really, really good. So coming in at number 15 is 1998's 18th album, Tubular Bells III. Now, by the time this came out, Mike had relocated to Ibiza, so you're starting to get this. He was starting to get influenced by the Ibiza beat sound. So there's a few bits in this one that are just not me. First track on there is called The Source of the Secrets. It has that Tubular Bell starting, but it's a bit dancey. Then we get a thing called The Watchful Eye. Got nice atmospheric sound to it and some good guitar work. Then we have a thing called Jewel in the Crown. It's a continuation really of The Watchful Eye, but it's got some really pastiche sounds on it. I actually like that one. Then we get Outcast, and it's a different take on the mid guitar bit from Tubular Bells. That goes dun 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 dun. That bit. It's a different outtake of that. That's one thing. You know, he's got Tubular Bells, and he's created 3 albums based around that. Incredible, incredible. Then we get a thing called Serpent Dream. It's a take on the bit before the introduction of the instruments on Tubular Bells 1. You know, introducing glockenspiel and that. It's very similar to that. Then we get a thing called The Inner Child. This is brilliant. It's got a vocal piece, but it's more in the lines of Pink Floyd's Great Gig in the Sky. Fabulous piece of track. Then there's a little ditty called Top of the Morning. Basically, it's a piano piece, very upbeat. It's my favourite piece on the album. It's just got different textures of piano, excuse me. Really good piece. Next track is a thing called Moonwatch. It's another pastiche piece. All these big words today. That opens into a great Mike Oldfield guitar solo. Then we get Secrets. It's another take on the opening of Tubular Bells 1. Just a little bit different. Far Above the Clouds. Good guitars. And to end it, we've got some Tubular Bells in it, so you just can't go wrong. On the whole, pretty good album. Don't listen to it much because it's just... I had to listen to this before I did the rankings. I haven't listened to it for ages. But, you know, it has got some standout tracks on it. Okay, coming in at number 14 is his 8th album from 1983, Crises. This is a bit of a hit and miss album. It's got some great bits and it's got some bits. So let's look at the track. Took up the whole of side 1, Crises. This is a song that actually could have been reduced down to 10 minutes. The start of it is terrific. It's got some heavy guitars and then riffs, and that again builds up, and then we go into this thunderous piece of rock music, and then we go into a middle bit that's just naff. Mike Oldfield decides to try and sing again, and it just doesn't work. Now if they cut that bit out but then goes into this ending bit, which is how it started and full of robust, it would have been a terrific track. But unfortunately, the middle bit spoils it for me. And on the second side, first track, Moonlight Shadow. I know everybody's heard this, but I love it. It's a great song. I don't care how many times I hear it. It's just a terrific song. Second track though, on side 2, is a different thing. It's called In High Places, featuring John Anderson. Now I love John Anderson, I love Yes, but this is a stinker. Now I know John's got a high voice, but it just doesn't sound right on this. Don't know why. Next track, Foreign Affair, we go back to good old Maggie Riley. Good solid track, great vocal. Then we have a thing called Tr3s 3. Now Taurus, you've made there's 3 versions of this. This is the last piece, it's the shortest piece. It's basically some guitar work. It's a nice little ditty, short and sweet, but terrific. The closing track on this album is Shadow on the Wall, sung by Roger Chapman. Second favourite song on this album. Terrific vocals, terrific riff, terrific guitar solo. Great song. Okay, coming in at number 13 is the 1982 album, his 7th, 5 Miles Out. Yeah. Features some interesting people. Maurice Pert, Cole Palmer drums on this, Maggie Riley, Rick Friend, Tim Cross. Yes, it's good stuff. First track on this album is Tr3s II. This is an epic, 24 minutes worth of songs. The start of the song is very similar to the last song. It just moves in and out of this certain riff. It's an epic where the sounds, it's just sounds and instruments, but it seems to flow and intertwine. Some great vocal sounds from Maggie, and it builds up. Again, it's one of these that builds up and then it goes down and finishes very softly. Love that track. It's 24 minutes of brilliance. And on the second side we've got Family Man. Now yes, it is it's the Family Man that Daryl John Oates covered. Family Man. It's okay, not the best track on the album. Next track is, I think, called A Rabby Doo. It's a nice quiet song that features Mike Oldfield and Maggie Riley using a vocoder. Then you have this upbeat middle bit, and then we revert to a nice gentle finish. Terrific track. Third track, Mount Tidy. Instrumental named after the volcano on Tenerife, and it features Mr. Cole Palmer on the drums. Really good track. And then we end up with the last track, title track, 5 Miles Out. It's a good rocker. Even Mike Oldfield's vocals are not too bad in this one. On the whole, a really good album. I remember playing it a lot when I got it. So next album, number 12 on the list, 1978's fourth album, Incantations. And now this is a very different album. It's a double album, and it's got 4 parts, called Incantations Part 1, 2, 3 and 4, oddly enough. So the first part, it's got some nice flute in it at the start, very orchestral. It just flows nicely, and then you get some nice drums in the middle, and then it goes back. You got these drums, and all of a sudden it goes straight back into how the first piece started. Really enjoyable. Part 2, at the beginning of it, it's got some nice flowing keyboards and some great choral sounds, but then it goes into some just drums. Nice vocal though, because it's Maddie Pryor from Steel Ice Band singing on it, but it's vocals that don't mean anything, and it just prolongs the track. Cut them 8 minutes, we'd have been alright. Then we get on to part 3, my favourite piece of Incantations. Starts off with a nice orchestral bit and guitars working well together. Then it goes into this piece with vibraphone. It's terrific, and that just builds up and builds up. It keeps flashing back to the beginning of the piece, and then it has a nice slow piece to end with. Lovely. Part 4, nice gentle start. This has got vibraphone all over, prominent in this piece. It's got different tempo, great guitar bits on this, and then it ends with the vocal piece from part 2, but this is better because it's shorter. On the whole, it was a bit different from what you'd been used to for the first 3, but overall it's a really good album. Coming in at number 11 is the 6th album from 1980, QE2. Really good album. First track on here is Tr3s 1. Now I've spoke about Tr3s 1, 2 and 3 now. It's got the same theme. It's just a different take on a theme, which Mike Oldfield's pretty good at. Really enjoy this bit. It's very foot tapping and memorable. Next track, Sheba. It's a nice quirky song where the vocoder is used very, very well. Really good track. Then we have a thing called Conflict. It's got lots of drums, driving guitar riff, and it incorporates an excerpt from Bach's Balderine. Very cleverly done. Really good. Then we have a cover, number 3 on the album, ABBA's Arrival. This is a great version of this track. And to be quite honest, it's better than ABBA's version. Really, really good. Then we get a thing called Wonderful Land, which is a great version of the Shadows song. And a few years later, the Shadows did the compliment and did a version of Moonlight Shadow, so which was quite nice. Then we get a thing called Mirage. This is a slow build up with xylophones, and then it goes into a great rock piece of music with the vocoder in there. Terrific song. Then we get a thing called QE2 title track. This is a mini epic again. It features brass, keyboards, guitars. What more do you need from Mike Oldfield? Typical Mike Oldfield track. Lovely, great track. Then we have a little ditty called Celt. As it says, it's a Celtic drum thing with some moving keyboard and vocal through the track. Then we have a little ditty called Molly, which is named after his daughter. It's just a 1:16 bit of guitar, and that ends out the album. So we move into the top 10. So before that, I'll have a little bit of my drink. Okay, top 10. This is where it really gets good. Coming in at number 10 is the 2017 album, 26. His last one he made, Return to Ommadawn. Now, this is terrific. This is just as good as the original Ommadawn. It sort of has little bits that run from the that Ommadawn theme is in there. This has got some haunting vocals in the first part and drums, just like Ommadawn. Just can't get enough of this. I'm still playing this a lot now, and when it's been out 4 years, one of his best is probably his best album for a long time. It is terrific. The second piece, this is very cleverly done. It sort of intertwines with Ommadawn 2, and it incorporates On a Horseback. Very cleverly done. Really, really good. Great return to form for Mike. Hopefully we'll have some more one day. So coming in at number 9 is the Millennium Bell, the 20th album from 1999. Another good solid album. Peace on Earth, first track, reminds me of an Enya track. Very, very good. Then we get a thing called Pachamama. It's got a very South American feeling with that South American vocal. What I like about this album, it's got different bits from around the world. It really is good. Then we have a thing called Santa Maria. Very short piece, just keyboards and pianos with a nice vocal. Third track, Sunlight Shining Through the Cloud. This has got an African flavour. It could have come straight out of that, what's it called? One of that Disney film. Can't think at the moment. The Lion King, that's it. Very good. It's also got, which is very clever again, someone speaks the words of Amazing Grace and it intertwines with it. Fantastic. Next up, the Dodgers Palace. This is a great piece of music. It's got strings, woodwind. It's got some strange male chorus vocals. Very Russian. Very Russian. Really like that track. Next track is Lake Constant. This is a fully orchestral track on the album. and it actually refers apparently to the romanticism in Europe. Really nice piece of music, could have appeared on a classical album. Really, really good. Next track, Mastermind. It's the guitar work sounds very much like the James Bond theme. That's one way of putting it. And then through this, there's this daunting spoken word of mastermind. Keep being said, it's said mastermind all over the place. Really, really good. Different for Mike Oldfield, but again, he pulls it off. He's got this habit of doing this. Number 8 on here is Sunlit Uplands. It's another orchestral piece that is broadly taken. It's taken from the name of one of Winston Churchill's famous speeches, apparently. Really good moving piece. Okay, Liberation. This is quite a moving piece. It's very like an Enya song, but the spoken word in this is Liberation, and it's an excerpt from the Diary of Anne Frank, actually spoken by Mike Oldfield's daughter Greta, that at the time of this was roughly the same age as Anne Frank. Very moving piece of music. It brings a lump to your throat, that song, knowing that bit's come from her diary. Then we have Amberlight. Another bit of South African sort of music, and it refers to the end of apartheid, so another political type song. And we end up with a thing called the Millennium Bell, and of course we've got tubular bells in this. It's a bit of a dance. It's a bit of a dance that meets African, that meets Mike Oldfield's guitar work. I like that track, really good. Moving swiftly on to number 8, it's the 1992 album, 15th, Tubular Bells II. Tubular Bells II. It's very similar to Tubular Bells. The opening Sentinel is a great rework of the opening of Tubular Bells. It's just very similar on a different note to the original. Doing the Master of Ceremonies on this version though is Alan Rickman. Really good. Then other highlights is the tattoo, the bagpipe piece, really good. And instead of the sailor's hornpipe on this, we get a thing called Moonshine, which is very bluegrass. Very, very nice little ditty. This just moves in the very same similar to the original Tubular Bells. So I'm not going to say too much on it because I'm going to talk about Tubular Bells obviously, but it's a good album and I really do like it. Coming in at number 7 is 1999's 19th Guitars. This is basically Mike Oldfield playing different sorts of guitars. There's an odd drum machine in here, but it's just all guitar work. Great album. Starts off with Muse, very tranquil, short piece of acoustic music. Then we get my favourite track on the album, Crises. Starts acoustic, and there's layers and layers of guitar, brilliantly done, even with a real heavy, raunchy finish. Then we get a nice piece of work called Embers. It's got nice textures and great sounds of guitars, lovely. Then we get Summit Day. It's got a combo of acoustic and electric. Terrific sound, terrific song. Out of Sight. This is heavy. And it's got an awesome bass line on this one. And there's no drums, it's just guitars. Absolutely terrific song. Then we have B Blues. This is what it is. It's got a great riff and it's got a drum machine and this bluesy sound. It is really, really good. Then we get this thing called Four Winds. It's a mini epic, but you get so many different guitar textures on this, and sometimes you forget that these are not keyboards, it is actually guitars. This next track is called Anegatism. Again, incredible sounds that he made on these guitars, and you do forget that he's actually playing this on guitar. And then we have a thing called Out of Mind starts slow, and then we get another great rocking end. Brilliant. Then the next track is from The Ashes, and it's just got some great layers guitar here, adding more layers as you go along. It's 2 minutes long, 2.5 minutes long, but really, really good. Right, coming in at number 6, fifth album, 1979's Platinum. Love this album. Well, I love side 1. Platinum, which is split up into 4 parts: Airborne Platinum, Charleston, North Star Platinum finale. Platinum Part 1, Airborne. Great opening bass. Sounds very much like Taurus 1. Terrific. Then we have the Part 2, the great rocky piece, Platinum. Driving bass line, driving guitars, and a little vocal bit that goes dum bum bum, really adds to it. Then we get Charleston, very jazzy, but again it's got this driving bass and great jazz drum. I think Maurice Pert plays on this. Yes, he does. It's really, really good. And then it ends off with the finale, a typical Mike Oldfield ending to a piece that just builds up. Terrific. Then we get into some really interesting stuff. Side 2 starts off with a thing called Woodhenge. It's rubbish. It's just a load of noise. That's all I can describe it as, a load of noise. Now, the next track, it depends on what version you got. I've got both this. It was originally called Sally, and then on the remix it's called Into Wonderland. This is quite funky and quirky. It's got some vocals, but they're just again like a great Gig in the Sky sort of noise. Really, really good. Then we get a nice little rocker called Punkadiddle. Really good track. And then we get George Gershwin's I've Got Rhythm. Not a very good version of it. Too slow. Totally changed it. Not very good. Okay. Coming in at number 5. The third album that he made from 1975, Ommadawn. This is brilliant. First time I heard this, it just totally blew me away. It's brilliant from start to finish. I love how it starts, that folky start, folky guitar. Then it goes into this bit of recorder. Now what I like about that, when I was a lad, I'm sure a lot of you do, used to watch Jack and Ori. One of my favourite books I used to read was about a dinosaur lad called Little Nose. And when they used to introduce that bit, they used that little bit from that recorder bit from Ommadawn. So that's what I like that bit because it gives me fond memories. And then we go into these drums and ending with this amazing crescendo of guitars, and it keeps going and going, and the way he ends it, he sort of fades everything out, so you're just left with this drum that fades out and fades out and fades out. Very clever, very good. Then we have side 2. First part is the keyboards and guitars just intertwine, and then you get a second bit with guitars and the Northumbrian pipes that come to a nice end. Then the keyboard bit comes in and it sounds like it's saying Ommadawn. Very clever. And then you get guitars coming in and the same thing, this da da da, and then all of a sudden at the end you get a recorder and it ends. Terrific. And then to finish off the album you get the little ditty on horseback. Lovely little ditty. Love it. Great track. Okay, number 4 It's the 23rd album from 2005, Light and Shade. As it says, this album is actually 2 genres of music with different diversions. So you've got the first 9 tracks dubbed as Light, and then the second half is Shade. It's very much on the same lines as Tr3s Lunas, and there's bits from a video game that he made into longer tracks. Now, I acquired the actual music from the video game. I've had a friend that seemed to be able to get hold of some really obscure Mike Oldfield stuff. It's not an official album, but it's really good, and he actually, some of them tracks ended up on here as longer songs. Some terrific stuff on this album. Opens up with Angelique. It's got some daunting keyboards, whispering vocals, and then again gradually builds up to another great track, Blackbird, the second track. It's just pianos and keyboards. So you've got a synthesizer and a piano just intertwining. Wonderful, wonderful piece of music. Then we get The Gate. This has just got great vocal sounds, very atmospheric. It just, I don't know, whatever Mike Oldfield does works. And again, this works. Next track, First Steps. This is a little mini epic. This actually takes you on a musical journey. It just flows beautifully. Has high points, low points, but it's smooth. There's no. I've heard some pieces of music where it's dysfunctional. This just flows naturally. Then we have a little ditty, next track, a little ditty called Closer. It's a daunting, moving piece of guitar work. It reminds you, if you've seen, everyone must have seen Titanic, and the band are playing at the end, playing that hymn, which I can't remember. It's like that, and you could imagine that being played there as well. It just fits in nicely. Then we have a track called Our Father. Got some moody guitar works, but so relaxing to listen to. Then we have another delightful piano piece called Rocky. When I think of Rocky, you think of my dog. Lovely piece of piano music. Then we get a thing called Sunset. Very atmospheric, perfect for a sunset walk along a beach. And the last track of the Light is a thing called Tr3s Lunas. Now this sounds very similar to Closer though, but it's a bit more Celtic. Still a terrific track. Now let's move into the Shade bit of the album. Opens up with a thing called Quicksilver. Very dancey. It's okay, but I skip over it. I don't really like it. Then we have a thing called Resolution. This is so eerie. Mystique. And then it's got some nice pastiche vocals. Really, really is relaxing. Cool, I'm getting dry today. Too much talking. Right, third track on Shade. Thing called Slipstream. Reminds me of the X-Files tune. And a bit like Jean-Michel Jarre again. Really good. Then we have a thing called Surfing. This is weakest thing on the album. Bit of a filler to me. Load of old. It's just a Mike Oldfield. When Mike Oldfield makes a bad record, he makes a bad record. Next track, Tears from an Angel. Another solid track. Modern sounding but tuneful. Then we have a thing called Romance. This is a dance track, but it's excellent. It just shows that us oldies can compete with the new bunch. It really sounds great. I do like it. Then we have another dancey track called Nightshade, but it's got such a great melody line to it. Terrific. And the last track is Like Me, or in brackets Fruity Loops. This is so upbeat. Starts off with a great guitar riff, and riff gets stronger, stronger. Then the keyboards take over with the same riff, and then towards the end the guitars come back in with the same riff but in a different key. Works terrific. Lovely little ditty. So now we're going to number 3. Hergest Ridge from 1974, the second album. Again, another terrific album. From that opening keyboard, you just know what you're going to get. It's got some great guitar works on here. And throughout you've got this heavy bass line, and then you've got a chorus of voices with piano. Absolutely stunning piece of music. That's part 1, and then on the other side you get part 2. This opens with some real pastiche guitar work that builds up with a timpani drum, and then all of a sudden you get this almighty heavy guitar piece that just blows you away, and then it just goes, as it starts, nice and quiet. Terrific album. For a long time this is my second favourite album, but then again in 1994 another album come along, the 16th album, The Songs from a Distant Earth. Mike Oldfield plays keyboards on this, his daughter, who he wrote a song called that, little ditty called Molly. This is terrific. Again, this is one of his best albums. It's number 2 in my list. Start to finish, no bad tracks on this at all. The way it starts in the beginning, it's actually a reading from Bill Anders, the space astronaut, and he was reading from the book of Genesis while orbiting the moon on Christmas Eve in 1968. Absolutely great way to start it. Then we go into a thing called Let There Be Light. This is moving, atmospheric, moving guitars. You know, it's so relaxing. Song with Supernova, it's just relaxing, echoing vocals, terrific sort of thing. Then we get a thing called Madeline. Again, slow start, upbeat into a piece with, well then it's definitely not bagpipes, because no, it's just keyboards, there's no mention of bagpipes, but it's a terrific sound. And then you get a thing called First Landing. It sort of carries on from Madeline, it brings it to a natural end. Then you get this little ditty, Oceana. Another great bit of work, great work from Mike Oldfield on guitars. Then we get Only Time Will Tell. This has got this repetitive keyboard all the way through, but you don't notice it because he puts other music around it, other instruments, other sounds that makes it really good. Then we got the weakest track on here. This keyboard's like a wailing voice. Then we have Lament from Atlantis, another nice little piece of Mike Oldfield work. Then we get a thing called The Chamber. Wonderful harmonies, voice harmonies and keyboards. And that flows nicely into my favourite track. I think it's pronounced Hydenaclium. It sounds like chanting monks, and then you get this guitar riff that comes in and out. Best track on the album, terrific track. Next track is Tubular World. It's got a nice touch with nice melodies, nice voices, lovely flowing song again. Same with the Shining Ones. It's got lovely flowing keyboard, and then the other sounds are just woven into this delicate work with some lovely guitar work. Crystal Clear. Great use of a drum machine on this one, and they just work. He just works the sounds around this drum machine. Brilliant. Next track, The Sunken Forest. Just a short atmospheric keyboard piece. And then we get the Ascension. Guitars and keyboard just work in harmony on this. Wonderful track. Then we have a little thing called A New Beginning. It's just like an African choir twanged off the album. It's actually based around that, Arthur C. Clarke's Songs of the Distant Earth. Really good album, terrific album, played a lot. So, of course, my number one is the debut, Tubular Bells. Love this album. It's in my top 10. No, in fact, I think it's more my top 3 albums of all time, this is. What can you say about this? From that most famous intro, which was used on The Exorcist. And then you get this build-up of mandolin and guitar with some eerie sounds, and you build up into that double guitar. Dun, 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 dun. Then it goes down again, and then you get in that finale by Master of Ceremonies Vivian Stanshaw. Absolutely terrific. Very interesting voice old Viv has got, but it adds to it. And how he says Tubular Bells at the end. Terrific. Second part of Tubular Bells has a very quiet start after the finale of part 1, and then it just builds up again. You get a timpani drum, and then you get the guitar, which acts that extra layer. Then you get that talking bit. To me it sounds like a Klingon talking. Then it goes into another bit of rocking guitar. Then it slows down, and then it goes into the sailor's hornpipe. What a way to end an album. Got vivid memories of this. That is why it's my number 1. So that's all the ranking. But what I'm going to do now, before I finish, is actually do an honourable mention on the box set, because there are a few little differences. Like the sailor's hornpipe on that is got a very drunk Vivian Stanshaw talking about where they were. It's very funny. The albums Ommadawn and Hergest Ridge, no different, but they're supposed to be in quad. That's the only difference. But the only difference on there is an album called Collaborations. The only reason I'm mentioning it, but it's got Portsmouth on it, which is a nice song, and Christmas thing in Douche Dobley. This also has the worst track ever from Mike Oldfield. Speak though you're only say farewell. Don't know what there was on there. Algiers is a good song on here as well, and the First Excursion, and everything else is just a bit yeah. But I had to mention it because it has got Portsmouth and Indushy Dobley on. There's other bits that he's done, which I might do in another episode. So that's it for today. This has been a long one. Hope you've enjoyed it. Please make your comments, and I'll see you all soon. And don't forget to subscribe. Take care, everybody. See you soon.